it's a whole nother language in the beginning. Like A plus, the trifecta, I was like, I'm about at the breaking point where I really need to level up my income pretty soon, that I was about to go stop what I was doing with cyber, go study and learn and grab the CCNA so that I can be competitive for sysadmin or network admin, network engineer. Because I was just like, maybe this cybersecurity stuff has too much competition. Make sure you guys don't fall victim to some of these things because it could set you back time-wise, energy-wise, especially financially-wise. Guys, how you talk and think about yourself and present about yourself matters. This is huge. This is freaking huge. It is every day. It is nonstop. It is all industries, all companies deal with this.
Before jumping headfirst into cybersecurity, there is something that nobody's telling you that could completely change your career path. You see, it's not just about learning how to hack, getting certifications, or landing a job for that matter. It's about knowing what it takes to really succeed in this game. Today, we're unlocking the hard truths, the hidden traps, and the critical lessons that most people completely overlook when getting started. You won't find any of this information in any course or certification, but by the end of this video, you'll have a blueprint to avoid the career-killing mistakes and rise to the top faster than 90% of the competition. Trust me, you don't want to miss a second of today's interview. Now, I'm assuming you're watching this video because you're interested in getting into the cybersecurity field. Maybe you feel stuck in your current role or just don't feel that spark anymore. I've been there too, sitting at a role that feels like a dead end, knowing that you had more to offer. If you're passionate about cybersecurity but don't know how to turn that into a career, then you need to check out this episode's sponsor, Southern New Hampshire University. SNHU is one of the largest accredited nonprofit online universities in the country, and they've designed their programs to help people just like you, people who know they're capable of more, turning potential into a career. Their affordable online computer science degree is packed with industry standard tools like Python, Java, C++, giving you everything you need to break into cybersecurity. Looking back on my own journey, it was that moment when I decided to invest in myself that changed everything for me. And if you are ready to take that leap, SNHU has the flexibility and support to make it happen. If you're ready to stop waiting and start building your career you know you're capable of, then head over to snhu.edu/itdad. Let today be the day you stop feeling stuck and start building the career you've been dreaming of. With that said, let's get into this week's episode.
My name is David Huynh. My little social media tag is like no fatigue, little fun double entendre, but I keep it succinct and uniform across all my social medias. But again, name is David Huynh. I'm coming up on exactly 23 months of IT experience. I'll hit 2 years in October. I jumped from IT support help desk to cybersecurity analyst. Now I'm kind of doing a dual like cybersecurity engineer, more specifically on like Splunk and SIM engineering, and then also a senior cybersecurity analyst, higher level alerting, investigation, getting a little bit more deeper into like malware analysis, things of that nature. But yeah, that is a little bit about me.
Awesome. And you know, you were on the channel before, and thank you again for coming back. You had such a great story, and I'm sure we'll kind of get into like how you got into the field, and you kind of had an expedited way into the field. But I want to start things off with, what do you think is the biggest misconception people have about starting a career in the cybersecurity field?
I think people see and hear that there's unicorn stories, that they can jump into a six-figure and a remote role in short term, in short notice being like sub 12 months, sub under a year. So I say that because, you know, there's marketing, there's social media about, get into cybersecurity in XYZ timeframe without getting a degree, without getting XYZ certs. And I think it really paints the wrong picture in a lot of beginners' ideas, a lot of new candidates' ideas about proper planning and what's, you know, there's the more what's possible just in general, and then what's likely. So, and then also, can you make it happen for you? because, you know, what it takes, are you willing to pay all the prices for all of that? Kind of like a checkbox. So the net of it is, this is my opinion. There's tons of people that disagree with this, and that's fine. I'm going to substantiate why I say it, but I don't believe cybersecurity is an entry-level field. Are there entry roles within cybersecurity? Yes, but it's still not an entry-level field because it's a deeper practice within. It's a specific practice within the IT umbrella. IT being a whole bunch of things, you know, networking, including systems, servers, cloud, dev, all types of things, and cyber also being one of the ones that are included. So, and you're competing against everyone else that also wants to get into these roles. So essentially, the more you know and the more that you can show and market yourself, the better and the stronger of a candidate you'll be. And this is just a quick, short example. Somebody that has working IT experience versus you just being a fresh college graduate, they're kind of weighted a little bit heavier because they at least have some IT working experience. Not saying that you can't fight it with as good of a resume, or maybe you fight it with having a very succinct project on there and you're able to market yourself a little bit on paper, a little bit better than that candidate. But that's just kind of like an example of what I mean. Is like, you kind of have to upskill. You kind of have to put yourself out there. You kind of have to apply. And you're competing. You're definitely competing. So that's a big misconception that I'm sure we're going to get into more and more and more.
Absolutely. And I want to follow up, like, how can these beginners avoid falling into this trap of like thinking that they can get into a entry-level job or a remote cybersecurity job? How can they avoid this?
Man, that was a hard problem. For me, when I was in the beginning, I was researching a whole lot. YouTube channels like yours, like Josh Madakor, whole bunch, Textual Chatter, Henri Davis, whole bunch of people. And I was trying to really listen to people, professionals that are actually in the field, and listen to their stories. So essentially, I was kind of building a Rolodex of success stories. How did this guy? How did this guy? How did this guy? And I was trying to like pick apart, I guess, similarities / things that I could see that I could stretch and accomplish in my life. For example, at that time, a degree wasn't kind of financially on the table for me. I was kind of in debt and I needed to get a job sooner rather than later. And going to college would have been kind of more debt in the reverse direction. So yeah. That's a kind of an example of what I mean by like different paths for different people. And you got to kind of dissect and study which one is going to be appropriate and applicable to you. So now you asked me about how do people kind of discern basically the truth from the BS. I think, again, it comes really down to following people who are actually in the field, which, by the way, this is unfortunate, but people can also mislead and falsify their work experience. Like you can just say XYZ on LinkedIn.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah.
There's not really a background check or a verification for that. So there's that.
I mean, I've hired people that like had XYZ on their resume and like came into the interview and like knocked it out of the park. And then like week 1 into the interview, it was like, whoa, it's obvious they don't know what they said they know. Yeah. And, like that person didn't even last like 2 weeks. Like, so it's.
I love that you said that, Dakota. I love that you said that because I kind of want to tie that back to the new candidates trying to get in as fast as possible. You know, you're going to have to pay the price, both in terms of marketing, getting certifications, being marketable, but then also on the technical hands-on side, genuinely having the skills. Just getting the interview, just doing well at the interview. Usually it stops
100%.
there. Usually it stops there. They should catch you, but in case you were very good at interviewing, or maybe they didn't ask the right questions and you finally get the job, now that you're there, you still have to keep your job. So
yeah. You got to follow through. You got to continue to show that you know what you're doing, or, I mean, at minimum, at least have the drive to figure it out. You know,
right.
I hate saying, I don't like this term, fake it till you make it, but there's actually a level where like you're applying, and as long as you're being honest, they don't expect you to know it all. They expect you to learn on the job. And I'd much rather hire someone who maybe doesn't know it all, but has the willingness to find out all the answers on their own or figure out and troubleshoot than someone that truly doesn't know it all and has no motivation to learn it, or, you know what I mean?
Right. So you kind of fake it till you make it a little bit, and you get the offer letter. Awesome. But I always say, like, when stuff hits the fan, when a project deadline actually hits, when the ticket queue starts stacking up, maybe you made it into like a SOC analyst role where SLA, service level agreements, for you guys that don't know what that means, just basically meaning like between the two companies that partner together, you agreed to answer and resolve tickets in XYZ timeframe. Usually it's shorter rather than later. You get like 1 hour versus like 24 hours.
Exactly.
But that means that you have to respond quickly, especially if it's like some type of cybersecurity incident breach of some level of magnitude. But usually you have to respond quicker rather than later. Whatever the case is, we are expected and paid to really get things done, and you got to have skills, and you got to drive results. So the whole misconception of like you can get in really quick, not really have to do all this work, whether it's the degree, whether it's the certs, whether it's all the projects, whether it's doing milestone job titles, like you hop from IT, or you hop from NOC, like a NOC analyst, and then you finally jump over. Whatever your path is, all of these things, I think, are very critical and crucial for long-term success within cybersecurity, because at the end of the day, you're expected to perform, and if you don't perform, you run the risk that you get put on a PIP, a performance plan, and if you don't make it through, then unfortunately you're gonna get let go, and you're back kind of like on the hamster wheel of like job searching all over again. So. That kind of all originated from the original question of like the good from the bad. The misconception of cyber is, I think it's not an entry level field because of how much you have to learn to be, job ready. And then also the question that was like, how do newbies kind of decipher? I think you gotta learn from more than one source. Hopefully they're reputable. Reputable not really being any one metric. Just because you have 1 million followers versus 1,000, 100,000 doesn't mean one metric. But you're going to have to practice some discernment. And I think you also do that from researching a variety of teachers, a variety of influencers. Don't just watch one or two 100%. YouTube channels, maybe watch 8 or 10. And, you have to really listen, research, learn, and kind of slowly dissect what everybody said and really look for the things that are similar. Like, it'd be strange if like 9 people said, this is what it takes, the longer, the harder route. And then one person says, you could do it in 6 months. It's like, where is this guy coming from with that? Exactly. That's just a short example of kind of the discernment, and, make sure you guys don't fall victim to some of these things, because it could set you back time wise, energy wise, especially financially wise. Unfortunately, I've heard, I've spoken to people and I've heard horror stories, so to speak. They spend $5,000, $10,000, even $15,000 for a boot camp. And not saying all of them are bad, but I've heard more people talk poorly about their boot camp experiences rather than well of their boot camp experiences. So have to practice discernment and research from more than one source.
We're not saying it's going to take forever. Like you, I want to touch on your story here in a little bit, but you were able to get into cybersecurity within what, 9 months of entering the field or so?
9 months. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can quickly move through and get into cybersecurity, but there's some prerequisites. And before we start talking about the technical skills, what are some of these foundational concepts that every aspiring cybersecurity professional should really master before they start transitioning there?
Yeah. So not necessarily that we need to master, but you should have working level, proficient level, meaning you can at least, we're assuming that you're breaking into an entry cyber role, meaning it's not mid or senior level. So what that means is like you're at least like quote unquote level 1 of a working level, whether that be junior sysadmin, desktop support level 2, 1.5 level 2, NOC analyst. So you asked some of the skills, guys. We have to understand some systems basics. And when I say systems, this is a huge term. So I'm talking about Windows as systems. I'm talking Linux as systems. I'm talking servers, routers, switches, how they kind of all interact and communicate with each other. And then all of those are kind of like the on-prem versions. Do you also kind of start to understand the cloud virtualized versions,
right?
And how they kind of all communicate and how they work? Not saying like you have to know exactly the TLS handshake for encryption, right? Like, and explain how it goes back and forth, the certificate authority, blah, 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 that stuff. But could you at least understand, do you understand what an email server is visually? Like if we drill out a network diagram or an architecture diagram of a enterprise environment,
right?
Can you kind of understand what we mean by like, oh, your important servers are over here, email, data, file, print service, blah, blah, blah. Then we have web, your web apps, all your company websites, things of that nature. Then you have your endpoints and firewall and things of that nature.
Maybe even start understanding like the different protocols that are normal for those servers to be running and stuff like that.
Yeah. Ports, protocols, DNS. Oh man. So you definitely have to understand a working level, a working proficiency level, which is hard to like tell people exactly where that is. But I guess, just so that we give people some objective, people are going to hate me for it, but just on a knowledge, at a knowledge measurement, approximately A+ network plus security plus. I'm not saying we all have to get these certs. I'm not saying we have to get them, but if you don't understand, correct. If you don't at least understand the knowledge level of network plus, you're going to have a hard time. Like for example, if you become a cybersecurity analyst or a SOC level 1 analyst and you're trying to investigate, you're going to struggle severely if you don't understand some of these networking concepts. So we talked about systems basics, networking basics, cloud basics. And that's a big like beginning before you even start to learn the hands-on of cybersecurity, actual skills of cybersecurity. If you don't understand these conceptual basics, it's like you're going to even struggle just to kind of hang around here of like, okay, now we're going to do phishing analysis, or we're going to break down a PCAP in Wireshark and start to try to see what the communication between the bad actor and the enterprise environment. It's like, oh man, you're going to be lost, dude. You're going to be really lost trying to backtrack like what these terms mean. And so that's just kind of like a simple ground rule, some ground rules of like, I recommend to a somewhat working level 1 proficiency before we really start to try to attack cybersecurity. Well,
and it's like I tell everyone, everyone in the field, you pretty much hear help desk is like the starting ground, is the rite of passage. Mm-hmm. And no, it doesn't have to be. You can skip right into cybersecurity, but understand you're going to have to front load it with a whole bunch of work, a whole bunch of learning. You're not getting paid for that. So why not go ahead and get paid, build on the job experience, and, start working in the career field that you want to work towards. That's why we say start at the help desk. You can learn these skills while getting paid to learn them and, be building experience that's going to transfer to your next job.
And that was a huge thing for me because at that time I wasn't really working. I needed money. I had bills because of bad previous early 20s spending with credit card debt and whatnot.
I still have those.
Totally on me, totally my fault. But
yeah,
I think it's also relatable to other people who are, maybe you're a career transitioner. Maybe I'm not sure. Maybe you tried to go down the nursing path. You decided to switch and pivot, and maybe you're looking for a little bit more career flexibility, work-life balance, things of that nature, and you want to pivot. That's type of the situation where it's like, can you tolerate waiting longer to finally break into cybersecurity, or would you rather try to more realistically get hired sooner with a more entry IT role like help desk? We can't really decide that for everybody. Everybody's life, everybody's whole life situation is kind of different, but that's a big consideration of just like, hey, there's not too much. You're not losing too much here. You're already getting started. You're starting to build IT work experience on your resume. You're getting a work laptop. You're getting an account. You're starting to like log in with VPN and starting to understand the flow of things with IT.
100%.
All the while you're getting paid. All the while you're able to reinvest and continue learning more cybersecurity. Not too much to lose there unless your current role industry that you're pivoting out of help desk makes you take a pay cut, which that's a whole nother, like, people are going to have to be grown-ups and decide whether they can tolerate that and persevere.
Yeah, no, and I can 100% relate to that because, like, my story, I was a bulldozer operator before I got into tech. I was making like 70 grand a year plus. Wow. I was making good money, but I hated it. My first job in tech made $49,000 a year. Yeah. We're talking over a $20,000 a year pay cut.
Yeah.
I will say though, it took me 2 years to make that back though. I was able, like, year one, I got a $13,000 raise, and then like year two, I was making like 70 grand again. So like you'll earn it back if you're motivated and progress, work hard, and it'll be easy to earn that back. But I took a $20,000 a year pay cut, and on top of that, it's even say I moved like 2.5 hours away because the area I lived was in a really small town, and like there was no tech jobs whatsoever unless someone like died. People would get in those jobs and would be in them for life. So I had to deal with the cost of moving and higher cost of living in this area.
That's a good thing you brought up. Choice. That's a really good thing you brought up, the whole location and working condition. I just happened to be in like near suburbs, really near to the city, a pretty big city, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that being. So obviously cities are a little bit much more commerce, much more capitalism, much more population. There's just more companies, which would then probably, hopefully, have more jobs as opposed to being somewhere more rural, more spread out, lower population, right, guys? Initially, in the beginning, where I'm not very competitive, I don't have a ton of certs. I didn't do any labs or home lab projects. I don't have my degree. I don't have any technical working experience. Applying for on-site and hybrid roles was much more feasible and less competition for me versus who is this completely new green guy trying to apply for this remote role? Yeah, I barely ever got any callbacks. I don't think I did really any interviews, nor did they go successfully if I did do any of them for the remote ones until I finally worked IT support, jumped into the first cybersecurity analyst role, and now I'm starting to pick up steam through more search, through actual having working experience on paper that I could show and speak to, and slowly break my way into more remote roles from there. We're still speaking within a year and a half, under 2 year, sub 2 year time frame. But I tell you guys that just to I was very strategic, planned out. Of course, there's also right place, right time, and a little bit of grace and luck. Right. Whether you're religious or you just want to call it luck. I didn't choose that. I picked this location initially because living with parents and family, I didn't choose this location, but I was here. If I was in a more rural location, kind of like you, Dakota, I probably would be faced with the decision that, hey, this fees are fiscally, financially, I might need to move to a more higher population area just so that I can be a little bit more competitive and have more access to jobs. Once I get the IT job or the cyber job, then I continue upskilling, start building that work experience, and eventually can be much more competitive for remote jobs. So that's just a huge thing, for my timeline, so that people don't kind of lose your brain of how come this guy says he took XYZ time and David's over here saying it only took him this. Stars align, lots of hard work, studying, strategic work. I was very active with LinkedIn. At the time that I got my first role in cybersecurity, I had 8 certifications. And I didn't really slow down even once I got the job. So all of these kind of factors, and again, I always say it I'm not trying to take all of that credit for me. I just worked hard and I got here. Dude, there was definitely a little bit of luck. There's a saying, I forgot who said it, but the harder I work, the luckier I get. I mean that because even when I found out when I got hired from the first role, cybersecurity analyst at Customers Bank, they had just recently fired one of their cybersecurity analysts for lack of performance, which means the position wasn't even available until that time. So until he got fired, now the role was open. Now they're looking, and the recruiter found me. completely out of my control besides the preparation in the background, me already working, me upskilling, me getting the certs, me doing the resume, being visible, being loud and visible on LinkedIn, things of that nature. You know, I was always doing the work and trying. But when it finally clicked and everything matched up together, at least I had been doing the preparation and the work in the background so that when the opportunity arose, I was able to capitalize on it. So, you know, I don't sit here and just tell you guys that, oh, you just hard work your way through everything, because there's definitely an aspect of social networking and who you know. There's definitely an aspect of right place, right time. And never giving up. You're going to have to stay persistent and consistent with it. Because if I didn't, I probably wouldn't be here.
That is so true. And that's the way, I mean, like when I first got into the field, I was like very persistent. I was grinding. I was like doing my research, what I need to do. And it paid off in the long run. Now I've been able to move back to be close to my family again. Mm-hmm. It's funny. If I lived in the town I live now, I have 3 times as many YouTube subscribers as there is people living in this town. And I'm not a big channel, but, yeah, it's like, we're like 15,000 people. There's not a lot of tech in this town. Mm-hmm. But since I went and got the experience, like 2 years later, I was able to move back, land a director level role working in a network operations center. And, you know, I'm living my dream now. So
that's awesome. Yeah.
Now, I got a question because I get this a lot. You know, people come to me and they're like, I want to work in cybersecurity. And I'm like, great. What do you want to do? And they're like, cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. I'm like, great. What do you want to do? You know, cybersecurity has many specializations. There's many specific roles. How should someone figure out which area they want to focus in?
Okay, guys. I helped so much people on this, so I think I'm quite good at breaking this down finally. So hear me out. On one end, there's a learning principle / law. It's called the law of inversion. So in the beginning, you don't know what you don't know, so you're going to have to do research. As you start doing research, you start figuring out, holy crap, there's so much I can do. Now you're in overload and you're overwhelmed and you're anxious because it's like everything makes money, but how do I pick which one? And, oh, do I want to be a pen tester? Do I want to be blue team? Or do I want to do GRC? What am I going to do? So the law of inversion, what I'm trying to teach you guys is instead of always trying to push, let's flip it on its head, because maybe one direction isn't giving us the results that we want. So the analogy is you guys are trying to determine what you want to do. That's the analogy of the push. And we're not getting anywhere too much. So now I'm saying, let's try to pull. Instead of figuring out what we want to do, let's figure out what we absolutely do not want to do first, so that we reduce our available options. And now we can be much more focused. So for me, how I kind of practiced and did this, I determined pretty early, and this might be some bias, but you know, it didn't really lead me wrong. Today, I'd be much more open-minded to it, but I did not want to do development. I did not want to do programming. I was happy with anything IT, sysadmin, anything IT, sysadmin, systems engineer, which is basically just the next evolution. I was happy with networking. And I'll tell you guys how I found out I was happy with it. Cloud and then cyber, those 4, right? How did I initially learn that I was happy with them? Because I was doing the work in upskilling. So as I was learning through the certs, the material, was I falling asleep and did I hate the crap out of it? Then maybe I might start jotting that down mentally. That's like, hey, that's maybe something I might not want to focus on. Versus, you know, like I kind of enjoyed learning everything, which is kind of good and bad, because it's like, crap, now I still have available options, right? But at least I know I didn't want to do XYZ. When it came to cybersecurity, what made me pick first? Well, that was kind of just default, because I already had my older sister having a successful career in it. So I was just like, I guess that's what I'll attack first. But guys, I was getting pretty desperate when I was still in IT support. I was applying. Things were not looking too great. I was like, I'm about at the breaking point where I really need to level up my income pretty soon, that I was about to go stop what I was doing with cyber. At that time, I was about 70% done blue team level 1, which was a hands-on technical, very good, very, very, very good technical, completely technical Blue Team Defensive Security certification. I recommend that very highly. I was about to drop that, go study and learn and grab the CCNA so that I can be competitive for sysadmin or network admin, network engineer. Because I was just like, maybe this cybersecurity stuff has too much competition, and maybe I can just make just as much money, approximately $70K for a level 1 network admin, a junior sysadmin, a sysadmin, things of that nature, even if it was just like $60K, because at the time I was making $23 an hour at IT Help Desk, which also comes out to about 47, 48 grand. I think that was similar to your story. So that would have been any amount above that was going to be appreciated by me, but then also the title, which is a little bit more elevated in terms of skill and respect, which would have made it even easier for me to eventually jump over to cybersecurity. But back to all of this. You did the research so that you kind of start to learn the lay of the land, the different IT specialties or vectors. You have systems, you have networking, you have cloud, you have cyber. By the way, each of these vectors have even more sub-vectors. Like, if just because I say cloud, are you a cloud network engineer? Are you a cloud cybersecurity engineer? Are you more on dev and you're like cloud dev SecOps? Like, it just gets crazy. Yeah. It gets crazy. Oh, when we talk about cloud, maybe you're a site reliability engineer, which is basically like you're a sysadmin on cloud steroids, right?
Yeah. And even those can technically drill down depending on how large the organization is. I think one thing that a lot of people don't realize, the larger the organization, the more kind of siloed off you get and the more specialized roles there are. Like, I'm a director of network operation, but I do like everything. Like, I oversee it all. I do it all. But there's organizations that where like you would be, a network engineer and that's only in charge of like these 3 switches, like, you know what I mean? So like
you can get a role
crazy specific.
Every role is different because at every company, their needs are different. So what your title is at one company can be a much wider scope than the same title, should be the same role at another company. But it's always just comes back to the needs of the company. And to bring it all back about how we start to pick and choose, research, start to learn about what's available. Off of what's available, now here's what I did. I was watching interviews from people who are already in the industry. There's YouTube videos about day in the life of a XYZ. And then also, you've made podcast episodes, you're interviewing network engineers, you're interviewing pen testers, you're interviewing SOC analysts, whatever. And watch and listen. Like, you kind of do have to get a little bit of an interest in this. I won't say passion. Passion's a very strong word. You don't have to be obsessed with this. You don't have to love it. But should you take an interest and a curiosity? Absolutely. If this stuff just bores you to death, like it's like watching paint dry to you, it's going to take an unusually higher level amount of discipline for you to be consistent with it versus if you already have a kind of a natural propensity, enjoyment, curiosity, and interest in it. But as you start to learn and hear these people's stories about what they do, what does this guy do? What does this guy do? What does this guy do? Both you're watching YouTube videos, you're listening to podcasts, you're reading blog websites. As you learn more, it should become much more clear and less of a mystery about what you're interested in, what you're absolutely not interested in. And now you can focus. Now you can start to piece together a learning path to kind of reverse engineer. How did this guy, let's say I want to become a network engineer. How did these 3 guys become network engineers? And how much can I kind of copy those paths to eventually become a network engineer myself? That is essentially what I kind of want to blanket statement say almost all of us had to do. Whether we were aware of it or not, that's kind of what we all kind of had to do. I didn't pave this special path for myself. It was a lot of borrowed knowledge and a lot of borrowed success from other people who came before me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, I'm curious, we were talking about skills just a bit ago, but like, what is that one piece of knowledge that most people overlook when starting, but can really make a huge difference in their long-term success?
I'm going to bias and hit everybody with the technical cyber, because this whole conversation so far has been from my biased viewpoint, lens point of technical cybersecurity, defensive cybersecurity, not offensive. but I'm not, dancing around that there's GRC, more compliance, more risk. But remember, in the lens of technical, defensive, blue team cybersecurity, I think a lot of people don't put enough emphasis on learning networking. Networking, I like it. You love it, obviously, Dakota, but it's a whole nother language in the beginning. Like A+, the trifecta, Network Plus was easily like the hardest. I know that's kind of a subjective statement, but like Security Plus, I watched completely, like just audio on my way to and from work. I wasn't even watching. Network Plus, absolutely not. I had to sit there. I had to like look at all these pictures and graphs and learn this subnet mask stuff and play different finger memorization games about CIDR ranges. But I don't think people trying to get into a technical defensive security role, they don't pay enough attention to networking in the beginning. And it really definitely shows, and a good 60% likelihood you're going to get asked somewhat of a networking question in your interviews. Yeah. So it's like, you can't avoid it. And even if you do avoid it, once you're at your job, you're definitely not going to avoid it through your investigations. You get some type of alert. You're going to have to go down some rabbit holes where you're investigating, use some type of SIMS solution, use some type of EDR, use some type of IDS, IPS, and you're going to be monitoring the network to some degree to piece apart the puzzle of how this incident happened. So
you have to understand how the network works before you can protect it. So.
Exactly. Which comes way back into the full beginning statement why cybersecurity is not an entry-level field, because if you don't kind of understand how these basic systems work, how do you then defend something you don't understand how it works? Right. It's like, how's that gonna work? You guys know, like, little analogy back to me with like HVAC. Like, my uncle had to really teach me the order of operations for how refrigeration works, heating and air conditioning works, like the steps of the furnace. Oh, you hear this portion, and then the flame should spark and start. What if the flame never sparks? What if the flame sparks and then shuts off shortly thereafter? So if I don't understand the basics of how the system works, how do I then troubleshoot it? Which is, I'm using an analogy of how would you then defend it in the real world, right? If you don't understand how the basics of all the systems that you're going to be working with, how does it work? I can't answer that question, but I'm basically saying you're going to be kind of screwed, man. Like, you're going to have a hard time. So don't run away from the work. Don't run away from learning the basics, guys.
So a bit ago, you were talking about like, you're hustling on LinkedIn, you're being loud. And in your experience, how important is networking, not the networking we were just talking about, but the other kind of networking within the cybersecurity community when you're just starting out?
Oh man, guys, back to the whole example of like paying attention how other people got into the role, into their fields. Studying other people's journey of how they became a cybersecurity analyst or a cybersecurity engineer or blah, blah, blah. I heard these people's paths were dramatically different than mine. Mine was a lot more, I guess, boots on the ground, hustle, grind, and kind of like working your way up. Not saying that the networking path, when we're saying networking, we're saying social skills, socializing, meeting people, right? This is a different type of network. We're not talking about technical IT networking. Some of these people were able to meet some people with power, with visibility, with a voice in their organization. And they were able to get internal referrals just because maybe they liked that person's personality. Maybe they saw how passionate they were with some type of home lab project. Maybe they met them at a CTF. Maybe they met them at some type of job fair at a college. But as you guys research so many different people's journeys and success paths into their career, you'll hear that a shocking majority got in through just meeting the right person and being able to charm them and like them. And, you obviously can't show that you're incompetent. You can't be an unruly, uncooperative person, right? You kind of have to be likable. There's a great book for that, How to Win Friends and Influence People. But
sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. Just
correct.
Simple as that.
Correct. So in my path, I don't think I leveraged that to the best of my ability. I leveraged because I mean, like, who the heck did I know? Who knew me at the time? The recruiter found me. But the portion that I did do well was being visible. So at the time that I was spotted, I had 2,200 followers versus today I just broke 14,000. I don't say this any braggadociously. The code is way bigger than me, right, guys? Okay. And it's LinkedIn. No. It's not like a YouTube channel.
I was going to say on LinkedIn, I'm like 4,000 subscribers.
But, and when I say these numbers, they sound astronomical. Guys, I'm not a professional content creator yet. I want to finish WGU before I start YouTube, but I'm not a professional content creator where I'm like dramatically always entertaining or dramatically always informative. Usually when you hear a content creator, it's like, you got to provide some type of value so that I could grab your time, keep your time, right? I'm saying I was just journaling and documenting my journey. Oh, so I'm studying on this. Cool. I'm taking this on this date. Cool. Hey guys, I passed it. Hooray. Now I'm moving on to the next thing. To me, it was kind of corny because I had that standard and expectation that shouldn't I be providing some type of entertainment value or knowledge value? But talking to so many people and people that connected with me, they were just motivated by me continuing to go. So I guess I pseudo kind of inspired people, but I'm just telling you guys how I kind of did it. Important side note, I always had LinkedIn Premium since October of 2022. And I did that. LinkedIn hit me in the gut. I totally fell for the marketing, but I'm like, I'm trying to do this. Hopefully I get more visibility and get to the jobs faster. When I originally signed up for it, I thought when I would apply, I would get put to the higher up the path, and hopefully the hiring manager, the recruiter would see me first. I'm not really sure that's how the algorithm on LinkedIn works. And I've learned short thereafter, I never used the one-click apply, easy apply on any platform ever again. You see the job posting, always go to the website, go to the career subpage and apply directly. There's a lot more HR reason why they love it when you do that. You're internally on the system versus you're on some third-party recruiting app. So that's what I kind of mean, where I was just active with social media. Of course, I was socializing with my people at my work, at my job, but this is what I mean, where everybody's journey is going to be different. What if I met, I don't know, the security director at my first job, which, by the way, I did try to talk to him, didn't get too far, but maybe you guys get your first help desk job and you talk to your IT security director and it goes completely different than me. And maybe they take a liking to you and they're able to kind of fast track you, maybe try to internally refer you.
I've heard it. It happens.
Interview on the spot.
All the time.
It actually happens. And none of this is a guarantee, but this is kind of all along that kind of blueprint of doing as many of the right things as possible. Right meaning, because you study other people, how they successfully got in, right? So now that we consider that a right thing, the degree, more certs, more projects, more networking, things of that nature, always fixing, optimizing the resume. You know, we kind of consider these things, you know, successful blueprints of how to get in. So I'm just umbrella term calling it, as you do more of the right things, you're increasing your chances. Just because I'm talking and socializing and I'm just being a super extroverted social person doesn't necessarily mean I'm going anywhere with it. But it's not a guarantee, but it's definitely very many people had very high success rates with it. So I used LinkedIn to the best of my ability at the time. Now I know and see more and I see differently. Like, for example, I'm in different courses and things of that nature. And as I meet people within that course, because I see them on like a meeting call or something, then I can go connect with them on LinkedIn and we can talk some more from there. But guys, do not underestimate the value of social networking. Who you know can change and level up your career in a much shorter period of time than just keeping to yourself, not talking, not marketing yourself, not getting any of the credit, not being visible, both, you know, in the job, in the office, but then also visible on social media, on LinkedIn, things of that nature. So definitely be aware of the power of it and try to use it to your success and ability as much as possible. So
actually, I want to follow up with, you know, what are, like, really quick, what are some practical ways people can build their professional network in the field?
Building your professional network in the field, guys, this is not like a perfect math science. And it's not like A plus B always equals C. it's going to be different for everybody. Number one. Number two, it's going to take time. It's not like school. I go to high school, I get diploma, I move on to college. It's not like I go to college, I get good grades, I get diploma. It is not mechanical like that. Okay. I mean, just a crazy example, like Dakota, I don't remember if you remember, I was a fan. I was a spectator of your channel. And I don't even think we officially met because I think you were asking for any volunteers to hop on, and I did. And I volunteered to hop on. But what if Dakota wasn't asking for volunteers at the time? Then it would have never happened. But that's an example of what I mean, where this whole networking thing, putting yourself out there, trying to talk to people, it's not a perfect science. So I'm going to move on to what I just said about putting yourself out there. Guys, please do not come off desperate and ask. Gary Vee had a wonderful book called like Jab, 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 Hook. And the hook is a part where you finally ask back for some type of value or return. But the jab, 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 he's saying all this, give for free, give for free, give for free. And I'm not saying apply that directly to networking, but what I'm saying is don't meet people and introduce yourself like, hey, can you help me? Hey, can you do this for me? Hey, me.
Exactly.
It's like, let's just have a kind of a natural conversation. Like maybe I hit Dakota in the DMs and just say, hey, Mrs. Dakota, I love your YouTube channel. I'm subscribed. I've been watching for a long time. I really resonated and loved your last video talking about X, Y, and Z. Like, guys, this is like no phony stuff, no weirdo phony stuff. It's like, be totally organic, be totally you, authentically you. Why did you like it? Anything. What was like, why did that video, why did you like it? And if it wasn't the latest one, maybe the second to latest one, whatever. But here's what we're hoping is that you hit Mr. Dakota very organically, very honestly, and he appreciates the kind words and the gestures, and you see where the relationship goes from there. It's not like, let me try once, and then the second day, so Mr. Dakota, when are we getting on an interview? When are you referring me? When are we getting on the podcast? It's like, dude, it happens way more organically and over time like that, guys. Like networking, again, in the social context, this is no different than making friends. Like me and Dakota go into the gym, we see each other, and the first day is just like a polite, little head nod as we walk by. We keep seeing each other. A week goes by. Again, we're seeing each other daily, 5-6 times a week in the same gym. Week goes by. We go from a head nod to a fist bump. 2 weeks later, we go from the head nod to the fist bump to the him or me is asking, yo, man, can you spot me on this next set? And now, let's say whether we fail the set, whether we successfully hit the set, now we just sit there and talk about like, yo, are you more into powerlifting? Are you more into bodybuilding? Now we're starting to get to kind of know each other. And to the level and the degree that we get to know each other and like each other more and more, like each other usually from commonalities, right? Or maybe he's just funny, or maybe he's just intelligent. You can like each other. You can like people for different reasons. You can have friends for different reasons. Yeah. Maybe eventually we start to, yo, you come to the gym often. I come to the gym often. Thank you for spotting me. Let's get a workout in the next time. What's the next time you're working out? When's the next time? Blah, blah, blah. Let's link up. Oh, it's a leg day. Cool. And now we have a little bro date going on. Now we've kind of started the initial buildings of a relationship, in-person relationship. Now take all of that and try to practice and translate it as much as possible into social media. And this is much harder over social media because it's just, unless you're making videos and you're kind of doing voice recordings and you're calling each other and you're speaking each other together on Discord, over text is very cold. Cold meaning it's tone deaf. I can smile on camera. I could crack jokes with Dakota. You can hear my sarcasm, blah, blah, blah. But over just text, all of that is kind of 2-dimensional. So this is what I mean, where it takes time and it's not a perfect science for everybody. Don't rush it. Remember that jab, 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 hook. Don't rush it. Try to make friends. Try to, almost it goes into like mentorship and menteeship. Don't push this stuff unorganically. Not everybody is open. Like, just because I hit Dakota, yo, $100 an hour, can you coach me? It's like, whoa, I never even offered that. I mean, maybe some people would do it for money. Some people don't. a lot of times these mentor-mentee relationships happen because we see you guys posting the hard work that you're studying and doing the home labs, and someone more senior actually likes what they see you doing, and they kind of want to help guide and blossom your lab into something more in a good direction and a more learning path direction, whether it's cloud, whether it's cyber, whatever. And maybe you develop an organic relationship. You weren't even trying to develop the mentor-mentee relationship, but because you were putting yourself out there, like putting out your home lab, putting out that you got CCNA, putting out that you're going to start building a on-prem home lab or a networking cloud virtualized home lab, somebody more senior could see your lab eventually and start talking to you and guiding you there. But there's no perfect formula for how you network and socialize with people. Take your guys' time. Take your guys' time. And I think I'm gonna come full circle with the whole stop asking so much. There's an old statement, there's an old saying of real recognizes real. And this is what I mean, where stop coming off so much as like people, hey guys, please help me. When you're just posting and you're sharing out there that you're doing the work, you got this cert, you're doing this project, blah, 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 you're doing these interviews, whatever. That's kind of like the real recognizing the real that, hey, that guy right there, he's sharp. He's actually upskilling. He's actually doing these home labs. Like he's going somewhere. And maybe, just maybe, somebody that likes your post, maybe you can go DM them. Maybe, just maybe, somebody DMs you because they're much more senior. They're already in the field, but they love that you're putting yourself out there. And they love that you're actually doing the work instead of, because a lot of senior people, I'm sure you get it too, Dakota. Some people just hit you right in the DMs of, Mr. Dakota, can you review my resume and put me in for a job, for an internal referral? It's just like, who the heck are you?
Yeah. Can you review my resume? Can you pay my certification fees? Can you do that? These are all things I've gotten. Yeah. And I learned this, through experience, and, to be honest with you, my YouTube channel helped me learn this is you always should offer something before you ask for something. You should always be like, offer some piece of advice, some knowledge, something to help that person out that you're asking to mentor you or whatever. And like, hey, I see that in your last video, you mentioned that you like classic cars, here is this article on this or something, whatever, I hear you're really into cameras and I just thought you might like this, and start that conversation naturally, Right. Don't force it. Don't be like immediately asking for all these things, develop that relationship, that friendship. Because, like us people, especially, I feel like we're a little bit more in the limelight because, YouTube channels and stuff, but I have tons of people asking me to mentor them on a daily basis, and I love to help them all, but I can't. I have a full-time job. I have YouTube, which is another full-time job.
You have a whole family of kids. It's like you're mentoring your kids. Own mini-me's and Rugrats.
Yeah, exactly. I got 3 kids, and now I've started up my own community where like people pay to join the community because, let's be honest, the community costs me money to run, but I mentor, like, we have like 60 people in the community now, which is awesome. And I'm doing calls with them on a regular basis. I don't have time to like just try to help someone else out. Exactly.
You don't have the time to do things for free, but then also, and people might call you a sellout or blah, 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 but like, it's kind of strange because like people don't understand like value exchange and kind of basic capitalism and business fundamentals. It's like you're paying for the fast track knowledge transfer that it took years for Dakota to develop. Yeah. And it took painful mistakes. I'm pretty sure you had some network admin, sysadmin horror stories. I had one.
Oh yeah.
I finally had one. It was through Cisco Umbrella. I took down the whole network. Dakota, I took down the whole network.
I've done that. I've done that before. Oh yeah.
Back to the payment model. It's like, you're paying for obviously his time and his energy, but you're also paying for all those years of hard work that it took for him to learn all of these skills. And now he's just kind of giving you these golden nuggets, and he's giving to you on like a silver platter, and it's in chronological order. So you don't kind of have to pick and put the pieces together and kind of be all discombobulated all over the place. So, and that's a lot of value because it can definitely fast track and move your guys' career shorter, sooner, faster. So, guys, don't take it the wrong way when like people are offering things of value, but they're also transferring it, exchanging it for a financial amount. I think it's fair, especially if it's honest and the value is definitely there.
So let's talk about, some real world cybersecurity challenges. What are some like real world cybersecurity challenges beginners don't think of that they really should be aware of before starting and, knowing what they're getting themselves into?
Okay. The answer to that, the one that I want to hit is phishing emails. Phishing email analysis is one of the biggest skills. Again, blue team, defensive cybersecurity, technical cybersecurity, right, guys? This is huge. This is freaking huge. It is every day. It is nonstop. It is all industries, all companies deal with this. And I'm going to use the example of like, especially because one of my previous roles was in the financial banking sector, right? So this puts things into perspective for you guys. So this is called this attack path. This is a real life thing. This happens on a daily. This is called a business email compromise, BEC compromise. Okay, guys. So you have the organization that you work for. Remember, David's here in working for that organization. I'm within the SOC, but my company still makes money. In this case, it was a bank. It was banking, right? So lending, loans, whatever. They're doing my company is doing work with partner A, right? Partner A, somebody from partner A, the person that they're working with, this guy gets pwned. This guy's a bad actor now. Now that they're a bad actor, they send my coworker, who they work with on a regular basis, a compromised phishing email. Because they have that trust working relationship already, my employee, my coworker, responds to that email, clicks on the link, punches in their credentials, also approves the MFA. So their credentials are probably harvested. And now they also have that approved MFA token. So now they got some time, depending on the policies, they got some time to do some work with that one accepted token, right?
Right.
But what happens from the analyst side is that I should see some alert, hopefully that, your engineers have set this up properly, some type of alert for, it's called impossible travel. My employee, we only assign Windows laptops. And I know where we work. We don't work out of Russia. We don't work out of Ukraine, blah, 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 blah. And I also know, because I could look up this person up in Active Directory. I could look them up on Azure. I can look them up on Teams that, hey, this person works on the East Coast. He's in Florida. Impossible travel. I can see this in the SIM logs, right, guys? In this case, Splunk. That Windows laptop at this exact timestamp in Florida. Cool. Impossible travel because the bad actor pwned them. Remember, my coworker punches in the credentials, MFA approves, and now he teleported to California. Like, what the heck is that? That's what we mean by impossible travel, and this is why the alert ticks off. Now that I go check in the Splunk in the Splunk logs and in the SIM platform, because I see that impossible travel alert doesn't mean that maybe they didn't put in a travel ticket and just forgot. Maybe they have VPN where the IP address can change dramatically. They're not supposed to be using non-company approved VPN, but sometimes people do anyway. Or maybe they have some type of IP anonymizer, some type of proxy set up that just jumbles their IP address like that. But it's now my job to investigate further. I check in the Splunk logs, and all of a sudden I see user agent Intel Mac. Whoa. We don't assign Macs. We assign Windows devices. Right. So I was already suspicious because the impossible travel, but now that I see their devices Mac, in a split second, because they were just on a Windows device, now they're on a Mac device and they teleported, my employee, my coworker is pwned. That is 100%, he is pwned. It is time to force a password reset, whether I do it, whether I communicate with my help desk or IT systems admin team, force password reset, cloud team, revoke all active sessions. If we're talking about Microsoft Azure, right? Revoke all active sessions. So the password change will stop them from getting back into the account after their MFA token session expires. but they still are. I'm sorry, middle finger. But they're still logged in. But they're still logged in as that account because they already have that one approved MFA token. So this is why you also have to go do the revoke active sessions to boot them out right away. So you boot them out right away. You force a password reset. Now essentially you kind of regain control of that employee account. But now we've kind of stopped the bleeding, right? Along the whole attack path, MITRE framework. You know, if you guys are studying into cybersecurity, this whole attack path, initial access, delivery, you know, remediation, recovery, etc. Now at this point, I've kind of stopped the bleeding. I can kind of take a breather, but now I need to do some basic forensics of like, how much damage does this guy do, the bad actor, when he was logged in as my coworker? And now again, I could check email logs. I can check Splunk logs. I could check so many different tools. But because I'm in the financial sector, one of the biggest common things they would do, they would create a new email rule where they would mark all new inbound emails as read, and they would move it to some type of anonymous, benign sounding folder with like RSS feeds or RSS subscriptions. Why did they do that, guys? The bad actor is trying to be more quiet, be more incognito, because you would get an email notification for all these new emails coming in, right? Nope, because he made this email rule and he marked it as read. And that's also another alert that you guys should have set up, because that's a very strange thing for any normal working employee to do. Mark all my new emails as read. So when your CISO emails you, you just don't read the email. It's like nobody would do that. Nobody would do that on a normal working day to day. So that's a weird thing. But then also I check the email logs. Subject line, wire transfer. That's interesting. Let me go check out that email. And it's a fraudulent wire transfer, fraudulent because it's the bad actor that's initiating it. It's not my actual coworker initiating it. And guys, this is a genuine, regular occurrence attack / breach that happens all based off of phishing emails. So very important skill to learn. I'm going to go out of my way. It is completely necessary that you learn phishing analysis to get into your first cybersecurity technical role, especially as a SOC analyst, especially as a cybersecurity analyst. By the way, guys, they're kind of, most of the time they're synonymous, but sometimes you have to read the job description to be a little bit more specific, because sometimes a cybersecurity analyst can be a GRC analyst, but they just call it cybersecurity analyst. So always read the job description. But again, you asked me what is kind of one of the main technical skills you guys got to know. You guys have to freaking know phishing email analysis. So yes, that was a long story, but yeah.
No, it was great. And you know, you've dropped so much information, and I got just a few more questions as we get ready to land the plane. But I want to, highlight, like, if people want to, follow you, if they want to hear more of your story, where can they go? Are they going to the 14,000 YouTube, follower page?
Yeah, guys. So I'm also on LinkedIn, David Huynh, and then you can easily find me with the tag No Fatigue. Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. I'll be making a YouTube channel probably later this year. I'm not really sold yet on what the title is, but maybe some type of like No Fatigue tech, something of that nature. But I'm big on LinkedIn and I'm big on Discord. My name on Discord is also No Fatigue. I'm pretty active in quite a few cybersecurity Discord channels. You'll probably see me mutual servers if you find my account. But again, I'm not hard to find. So yeah, and guys, if you haven't, I highly recommend you watch our first episode where Dakota initially interviewed me a year ago too. It's kind of funny because you'll see the difference in like skill and experience.
No, absolutely. In that video, I'll link down in the show notes or the description. But yeah, you were fresh in the field. You were like 9 months into cybersecurity or the tech field. Yeah. So, that was definitely tons of great knowledge there. And you came back and delivered even more great knowledge. Now, we've talked about a lot of the misconceptions and stuff. What should someone do? Say they have like a year on the help desk. They've got kind of that initial level experience. They are looking, okay, I think I'm ready to start applying for cybersecurity jobs. What do they need to do? You guys also have to understand resume writing and marketing. Okay.
Let me give you a very concrete, very usable example. You got to, because the situation was, we just had a year in help desk. Guys, how you talk and think about yourself and present about yourself matters. Okay. I can say, hey, IT support analyst, help desk, desktop support analyst, whatever the title was, doing password resets, troubleshooting IT problems, and blah, blah, blah. Those are bullet points along your job. Sure. Like that's actually what you did. But number one, don't forget key metrics, key accomplishments. Like we need numbers. What did you do? How did you do it? What was the business impact? Hopefully some type of dollar amount, some type of percentage, something of that nature, like increased process efficiency by 33%, something like that nature. Oh, created SOPs to enhance training and increase process efficiency by 33%. You did that. How did you do it? You did it by enhancing and writing the SOPs, the standard operating procedures. What was the business impact? Increase efficiency by XYZ percentage, right? That's just an example. Now, the second thing is presenting yourself, marketing yourself. Okay, guys, you're in IT support. Now you're trying to become a cybersecurity or SOC analyst. This is like, I'm teaching you guys empathy. I'm teaching you guys put the foot on the other person's shoe. You need to psychologically teleport into the hiring manager and the recruiter of the cybersecurity job. What are they looking for? How do you do that? Read the goddamn job description, right? So they're focused on cybersecurity thinking, skills, terminologies, tools, etc., versus you just have all your IT support stuff. But here's a great example. I can just say I did password resets. But guys, that's not the best way I'm selling myself and my cybersecurity focus. I always tell this story of how just from a simple help desk call and I need to help this person reset their password because they're locked out. You can talk about CIA triad and you can talk about zero trust. And here's how and why. Refresher for you guys. CIA triad, confidentiality, integrity, availability. I love how this one guy broke this down. Confidentiality, detect, deter, prevent the unauthorized access of information and assets. That's confidentiality, meaning you're supposed to be the right person that accesses it, right? Right. If you're not the right person, no, otherwise that's a breach of confidentiality. Integrity, detect, prevent, deter the unauthorized modification of data and assets. That's integrity. For example, bank account, you deposited $100, tomorrow is only $95. What the heck? That's a violation of integrity, right, guys? And then availability. Detect, prevent, deter the access to data and assets and endpoints, right? Which is, availability is quite literally what it is. If I don't, in the context of a password reset, if I don't verify who the person is and I just change the person's password, and let's say they're not who they say they were, I just breached all three of those. I breached confidentiality because I just gave access to a person who's not that person, like the CEO. I just changed the CEO's password and I didn't verify it was the CEO. Now I just did change the password and I just gave it to this random person on the phone. So now that's a breach of confidentiality because this person's not the CEO and now he has access to it. Breach of integrity because now he can probably start changing data, changing files, exfiltrating stuff, sending emails, modifying all types of stuff as the CEO now. But this is the bad actor, right? And then finally, breach of availability because the actual CEO can't log into his account because I changed the dang password and I gave it to the wrong person. Okay. So just from that simple help desk call of a password reset, you can illustrate that you know and you practice the CIA triad. And then the second thing I mentioned was zero trust. Just because you call and you say, hey, I'm Billy Bob, I'm the CEO of your company, I don't have to trust you. Prove it.
Right.
So if you guys have already begun working IT support or you haven't, typically you have some type of procedure where you're going to ask pretty sensitive data, PII, personally identifiable information about the person to just double check, make sure this is the person that they say they are. Like if Dakota calls me and he's saying, hey, this is Dakota, networking director, blah, blah, blah. My account's locked out. David, can you help me reset my password? I should already have some type of database where I have pretty potent PII about Dakota now that I can then ask him questions like, hey, Mr. Dakota, I just want to, before we proceed with your password reset, I just want to confirm you are who you say you are. Can you tell me what the last 4 of your social security number is? And if he doesn't answer within like 3 seconds, I'm going to be like, you're a grown man. You don't know your last 4? Like, this is weird. Okay, how about your home of residence? You don't know that? Okay, who's your direct manager? Things of that nature. But we're practicing zero trust because zero trust essentially is, in God we trust, everything else we verify, right? Trust but verify basically is, just because he says he's Dakota doesn't mean I have to believe he's Dakota. I need to verify. I really need to verify. So bring this all back, okay? The whole resume, the whole marketing yourself. I work IT support, but I need to market myself as an IT professional, and I understand cybersecurity professional. I need to market myself that I know cybersecurity practices. And in a way, the way I write it on my resume, I'm also kind of illustrating and almost posturing myself as if my help desk job is more cybersecurity focused than it may actually be. I'm not telling you guys to lie, but I'm saying market yourself in the best light as possible. No different than you're going to show up on an interview and you're not, you're going to be well, clean shaven. You're going to look good. You're going to smell good, blah, 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 blah. It's the first date. What are you going to just dress up in pajamas? Like market yourself, and present yourself how you want to be perceived.
This has been an epic interview, and thank you so much for taking the time. Now, before any of you go, if you are ready to take your career to the next level, definitely go check out SNHU, as they offer a wide range of degree programs designed to help you gain the skills and knowledge you need to thrive in cybersecurity and beyond. So head over to snhu.edu/ITdad to learn more on how they can help you achieve your goals. Thank you again for tuning in, and until next time, keep learning.